Men who no longer recognize their manhood, women who no longer believe they are women, and dozens of other identities foreign to the nature God created, bodies concealed beneath tattoos and pierced by metal, souls groaning in the depths of nihilism and meaninglessness. They destroy themselves because life wounds them. Others erase their humanity by turning into animals. Madness without end, collapse without a bottom, and all of this in the arms of a civilization that claims to be the greatest in history. So let us take a few steps back to search behind this raging fever. Perhaps we might find an answer to our confused world's burning question. Why is Western civilization doing this to the bodies of its own children? It all began with Descartes. In 1637, the French philosopher René Descartes published Discourse on the Method. In it, he presented a philosophy that would turn Western thought upside down, a philosophy of doubt. In everything, this Cartesian doubt flooded Western thought with waves of skepticism that eroded the very foundations of life. With the success of the French Revolution and the fall of the religious state, the firm pillars of Western society began to crack, and skepticism soon spread to everything, even the objectivity of the world, the reality of human existence, and the meaning behind it all. Some even doubted human perception itself. Even if a thinker reached a conclusion or meaning, that meaning was suspect, because the philosopher's own perception was suspect. As this rejection of certainty and transcendence grew, so did the collapse of the solid foundations of Western modernity, and in its place emerged liquid modernity, its daughter philosophy, cultural and moral relativism. This transformation was further accelerated by the disastrous legacy of totalitarian ideologies, Nazism, fascism, communism. These ideologies taught Western man to fear anything resembling the solid truths of the past. War and destruction became tied to ideology itself. And because religion was the deepest ideology in Europe, it too became seen as a source of violence and extremism. The solution? To glorify relativism, praise diversity and difference, elevate the marginalized and the excluded, and to sanctify human choice, no matter its foundation or lack thereof. Foundations themselves were dismissed. There were no absolutes, no universal truths. Let everyone do whatever they wish, without judgment or criticism. All choices are free, and all value comes from within, not from any objective reality. So, if you want to be a dog, this is fine, not because being a dog is good, but because a free individual chose it. And if you hate the nature in which God created you, we'll give you an entire field of science built around gender identity, separate from your biological sex. We'll craft a colorful flag and sacred slogans you must never question. Western culture has corrupted the human being. It has cloaked personal whims and sanctity more than any civilization in history, believing it was offering people a utopia of freedom. But in doing so, it stripped them of the very drive that gives life its meaning. Desperate atheism. Let's shift to another story. In 1888, a man named Ludwig Nobel died while visiting Cannes, France. His name was familiar, and the press mistakenly believed the famous inventor of dynamite, Alfred Nobel, had died, especially since Ludwig was Alfred's brother. So, one newspaper published the headline, "The Merchant of Death is Dead." Reading this, Alfred Nobel was devastated. He rewrote his will, leaving his fortune to fund awards for those who served humanity, what would later become the Nobel Prize. Fast forward to 1957, the French writer Albert Camus won the Nobel Prize in Literature, awarded for a novel, The Stranger, that centered on nihilism, absurdity, and the utter meaninglessness of life. Here, we face a bitter irony. A prize meant to celebrate human benefit was given to a writer who despised life itself. But to be fair to the committee, at that time, nihilism was a fertile mother that gave birth to popular art and literature. In a culture that had lost all reference points and declared war on absolute truths, nihilism became the only logical expression of such a world. In her book, Professors of Despair, literary critic Nancy Houston highlights this phenomenon. She says that any book declaring that everything is dark, hopeless, and tragic will become a bestseller, even if it lacks literary elegance or creative structure. We find ourselves in a Western society torn by contradiction, wishing to live in democracy, solidarity, and generosity, yet obsessed with stories of trauma, isolation, violence, and despair. This paradox is best explained by Aliha Izetbegovic in Islam Between East and West. He writes that nihilism is the logical outcome of losing meaning and transcendence. He says, nihilism is not a denial of divinity. It is a protest against its absence. It is a form of desperate atheism, failing to find value and therefore denying it altogether. As Russian philosopher Nikolai Berdyaev says, nihilism, in the end, is just another metaphysical stance. It tries to elevate relative values into absolute truths. It is an existential fragility that kills the soul mercilessly. And in a world where the soul has died, the body takes over. Mortal immortality. What remains for a human who has liberated himself from all authority and restraint? You need not search far. Just look in the mirror. It is the body. As Chris Schilling writes, with the collapse of grand narratives like religion, reason, and science, and the rise of self-centeredness and radical individualism, the body becomes the last thing a person owns, the last space where identity can be shaped and meaning can be asserted. Thus, modern society plunged into an unprecedented obsession with the body. Plastic surgeries surged. Tattoos and body art became widespread. Conversations about the ideal body dominated the culture. This is not to deny the value of fitness and health, but there is a deep difference between someone who cares for their body as a gift and a vessel for life, and someone who sees it as their only identity. Put simply, there is a world of difference between someone who sees the body as a means to a higher purpose and one who sees it as the end itself. In this sacred devotion to the body, people endured the pain of surgeries, tattoos, piercings, all in a desperate attempt to immortalize what is, in truth, mortal, because what could have been eternal has already been lost. This helps explain why the body holds such an elevated status among those with deviant inclinations. It is their last possession in a world that has stripped them of everything else. It is their only identity in a reality where greater identities and transcendent meanings have evaporated. It is a cry of desperate pain, which they imagine to be a cry of freedom. But how can someone find peace in the power of their body and desires after rejecting the power of their Creator? How can one who resented the servitude of God live a good life, now enslaved to his own lusts?